South Korean culture is having a moment. Actually, no, wait, it's not. To all the analysis about Squid Game and South Korean soft power, please. It's been having this moment for the last few years globally and for about a decade in Asia. Hallyu, or the Korean wave, is what the country's culture ministry calls successes its entertainment industry has had outside the country. A wave that's been building for years based on a very clear objective the government introduced in 1994. The Presidential Advisory Board on Science and Technology submitted a report to then-President Kim Young-sam suggesting that the government promote media production as a national strategic industry. After crunching the numbers, they computed that the overall revenue of Jurassic Park was equivalent to the foreign sales of 1.5 million Hyundai cars. The idea of comparing a film's revenue to Hyundai cars, considered the pride of Korea in the 90s, kind of sparked a light bulb moment where the idea of culture as an industry could really take off. In the same year, the government established the Cultural Industry Bureau within the Ministry of Culture and Sports. It also expanded the budget from $14 million in 1998 to $85 million in 1999. And in 2021, it planned on spending $890 million on promoting the entertainment and cultural industry. Now back to the 2000s. There was government support, but not really direction. The 2000s were marked by a struggle to preserve Korean culture, but at the same time, evolved with the innovations in the entertainment industry in the West. In the process, a cultural hybrid grew, as exemplified by the film industry and Kpop. In 2020, the revenue for South Korea's content industry was $107 billion. But it touches on a lot more than just movie ticket sales and K-pop album revenues. I asked my colleague Jiyeon Lee on what these ripple effects were.
Yes, so obviously last year has been a difficult year for the global economy. There was a pandemic, and Korean exports, which has been booming every year, it fell last year as well. But if you look at the consumer products that benefited from the popularity of Korean culture, Korean pop culture, like idol stars and Korean TV shows, to the global audience, it was up by more than 5%. And it was really an outperformance if you consider the state of the global economy last year. The content industry by itself is still small, but it's growing. And if we look at the size, as of now, it's bigger than household appliances, which is one of Korea's key export items. It's been one of the fastest rising sectors within the economy. If we look at the past decade through 2019, it grew at high 20%, so that was a faster pace than manufacturing. And Netflix recently released a report where it said it helped create 16,000 full-time jobs within Korea over the past 5 years. For many, many years, Korea's goal has been to attract more foreign tourists within Korea because the economy is heavily export and manufacturing oriented. And for that, the popularity of Korean stars, Korean idols, and Korean shows and dramas, and also products have played a huge role in attracting more people into the country. So if you look at before the pandemic, like in 2019, more than 10% of tourists who visited Korea said they visited specifically for the purpose of engaging in fan events or visiting places where Korean dramas or movies were shot.
Not only that, but there's also been a surge of people studying Hangul, or the Korean language. As of July 2021, there were 234 institutes in 82 countries. The world's most downloaded language app Duolingo releases a language report every year. Here's Duolingo's senior learning scientist, Dr. Cindy Blanco, on the trends they see when it comes to the Korean language.
Yeah, so worldwide, Korean ranks as the 7th most popular language to study, which is actually a really big deal. I think in most places it's pretty common to study English or Spanish or French, and so the fact that Korean makes it to the top 10 list and last year was the 2nd fastest growing language is really impressive. Something else that is really impressive about Korean learners is that they are located all over the world. So Korean reached the #1 spot in a number of countries in Southeast Asia in 2020, including the Philippines and Malaysia. But it's also one of the fastest growing languages in Brazil, and Mexico. It's the 5th fastest growing language in the US. And I think this speaks to, again, like the diversity of learners who are really interested in Korean. This isn't a passing fad, a trend that is particular to a certain country or a certain culture. We know that a lot of our Korean learners are younger, that Gen Z is driving a lot of these language learning trends when it comes to overall interest in Asian languages, and we know that's true for Korean as well.
Now, soft power is a tricky thing to quantify. It's a no-brainer that the immense influence South Korean culture has on society continues to grow. But another way to measure soft power, according to Harvard political scientist Joseph Nye, who coined the term, is when one country gets other countries to want what it wants. The fact that success for Korean artists, movies, and content is still measured by the same Western standards like Grammy or Oscar wins still indicates a reliance on the old institutions. And many creators in the South Korean culture and entertainment industry still aspire to those accolades. So while it makes an extremely strong case, it's hard to definitively say that South Korea is the world's new cultural hegemon. It is, however, a disservice to say that it's merely having a moment. The Hallyu wave has simply reached all shores.